BTS news today: the late afternoon sun began its descent as Jimin and Jungkook stepped out of a private resort on a small island far from the noise of the city. The place had been chosen carefully by their manager, quiet, hidden, with barely any tourists. All they wanted was a short vacation, far from the spotlight, to recharge after months of tight schedules and public pressure. But they didn't know that their every step had been followed from the very beginning. That day was supposed to be peaceful. Jimin wore a plain white t-shirt and cream linen pants, his hair still damp from the sea. Jungkook followed shortly after, a black cap pulled low over his face, doing his best not to draw attention. They laughed quietly, shared stories, and fed each other pieces of fruit from a picnic basket brought by hotel staff. Amid the crashing waves and singing breeze, the world seemed to pause just for the two of them. But unbeknownst to them, behind a row of coconut trees facing the beach, someone had been waiting since morning. A high-resolution phone camera peeked from a distance. A Saesangs, an obsessive fan, had discovered their location through a hotel staff member who had been quietly paid off. And in that moment, the privacy they had so carefully guarded began to crumble. The first photos leaked around midnight. An anonymous account on Platform X posted a series of images: Jimin laughing freely, Jungkook gazing at the ocean, and one particular photo that silenced netizens. They were walking close, shoulders nearly touching, as if they didn't want the world to come between them. Hashtags began to trend. Hashtag protect Jimin Jungkook, hashtag leave them alone, and the most heartfelt, hashtag let them breathe. Within minutes, hundreds of thousands of ARMY from around the world rose in protest. They were angry, disappointed, and many cried upon seeing their idols deprived of space to simply be human. Among the flood of social media comments, one message echoed loudest: "You say you love them, but is it really love if you can't respect their privacy?" Back in their dim, cold hotel room, Jungkook stared at his phone screen in silence. He read every comment, every retweet, and looked again at the photos of himself taken without permission. Across from him, Jimin leaned against the window, staring into a night that no longer felt welcoming. They knew the risks of being in BTS: fame, love, attention. But that day, the weight of it all felt too heavy. "I feel naked," Jimin whispered, his voice barely audible. Jungkook lifted his gaze. He looked at Jimin deeply, trying to find something to say, but only silence arrived. He walked slowly over, sat beside his friend, and exhaled deeply. "We just wanted rest, that's all," he murmured. Jimin turned to him, their eyes meeting. There was exhaustion, there was anger, but there was also resilience. They knew they weren't alone. ARMY stood by them, raising their voices, demanding the agency take action, urging the media to stop spreading the stolen photos. Some fans who were lawyers even offered pro bono help to track down the perpetrator. The next day, Bigot Music released an official statement. It was firm. They would take legal action against those who spread the photos and the Saesangs who followed their artists. They strongly condemned the privacy violation and said it had crossed all boundaries. Many felt relief, but the scars left by the incident were not so easy to heal. One BTS staff member later shared that Jimin couldn't sleep that night. He stood on the balcony for hours, staring at the sea that had once welcomed them with calm. Jungkook stayed with him, playing an old playlist of songs they had written together, songs about loneliness, sacrifice, and hope. "I just want to be Park Jimin tonight, not Jimin of BTS," Jimin whispered. Jungkook turned slowly, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder, and replied, "And I'll still be John Jungkook, the one who will protect you, even if the whole world won't give you space." The next day, they decided to leave the island early. They told no one, not the media, not even the hotel staff. They went to a place not listed on the internet, a small wooden cabin deep in a pine forest, owned by an old friend from their trainee days. The place had only one rule: no signal, No cameras. There, they found peace again. They lit campfires, shared childhood stories, and laughed over things only they understood. In that quiet, they wrote a new song about what it feels like to be human behind the scenes, about the fear of sleeping with one eye open, about the hope of living without having to hide. The song hasn't been released yet, but a producer who heard it said, "It's not just a song, it's a cry from the soul." A few weeks later, they returned to Seoul, not with glitz or fanfare, but with more cautious steps. At the press conference, they didn't address the incident directly. But when a journalist asked about the meaning of home, Jimin simply smiled and said, "Home is a place where you can laugh without fear, a place that can't be bought with money or fame." And Jungkook added, "Home can also be someone who makes you feel safe, even in a world that constantly judges you." ARMY understood. They read more than just words. They knew the wound hadn't fully healed, but they also knew Jimin and Jungkook were stronger than the world believed. After the incident, a large movement began. The hashtag #ARMYProtects campaign was launched, educating fans on boundaries, privacy, and the importance of being a healthy fan. They created petitions, reported Saesangs accounts, and even collaborated with the agency to develop a better reporting system. Most touching of all, tens of thousands of letters were written and sent to HYB, not just fan mail, but words filled with empathy, understanding, and non-possessive love. One handwritten letter from a Japanese army read, "We want you to be happy, not just for us, but for yourselves. If loving means letting go, then we will learn to release our curiosity for your peace of mind." At the next concert, Jimin and Jungkook performed the new song. There was no choreography, no flashy light effects, just the two of them sitting side by side on stage with an acoustic guitar and soft yellow lighting. And when the final verse was sung, Jimin's voice trembled gently. "If the world won't give space to breathe, I want to be your place to come home. Not a stage, not a cheer, but an embrace that needs no reason." Tears could be heard from all corners of the stadium. Even those watching through live streams fell silent. And maybe that night, for the first time in a long time, the world heard them, truly heard them. Jimin and Jungkook are not just idols. They're human. And humans need space to love, to breathe, and to feel safe. They never asked the world to stop loving them. They only asked to be loved the right way. The night in Seoul felt quieter when they returned. The city, usually filled with sparkling lights and traffic noise, seemed to know to hush itself. The black car they were in moved slowly down the street toward their private apartment. Not a single paparazzo was in sight. Management had arranged everything with utmost precision. But that wasn't what made the night feel different. Something had been left behind on that island, hidden behind laughter that was forcefully recorded, behind photos that stole sincerity. Jimin rolled down the car window, letting the night air brush against his face. Beside him, Jungkook sat with earphones in, playing the demo of the song they had recorded in the wooden cabin in the forest. They didn't speak much on the ride home, not because there was distance, but because too many things had already been said in silence during that last vacation. Once at the apartment, they walked in together. The lights slowly flickered on, and the warmth of the room welcomed them, as if to say, "You're safe here." Jimin put down his bag, then sat on the couch, staring at the TV that hadn't been turned on. Jungkook poured 2 glasses of water, handed one to Jimin, then sat beside him. "Hyung?" Jungkook finally said, his voice low and heavy, "Are you still scared?"